Well, new tonight, Senator Kimbrell's defamation lawsuit against an upstate firefighter has now been dismissed. The upstate senator and candidate for governor filed that lawsuit less than 2 weeks ago. Kimbrell claimed a Boiling Springs firefighter and 2 attorneys made false and defamatory statements about him. Well, today, records show Kimbrell did not serve any of the defendants and through his attorney filed a motion to dismiss the case. Now, the lawsuit came after our Fox Carolina investigation. We sat down with that firefighter, Kyle Gilmore, and his family after Kimbrell made comments on Gilmore's Facebook post. Kimbrell wrote that he would not support additional state resources if Gilmore was still employed by the fire department. And you can find that full Fox Carolina investigation right now on our website, Fox Carolina.